All right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jared. This is Justice's Waiting Room, a daily live podcast where we discuss news and politics. One of the things we do to it is we get to it, right? I'm not sitting behind a starting in 5, twiddling my thumbs, looking for shit to talk about. I don't do scripting, none of that shit. When I look at it is the first time I've seen it too. Now, I do during like the course of the business day. I'm one of those full disclosure people, so let's start there today. Um, if you're in the Discord, you know that I wouldn't say I never sleep, but like I have my eye. I'm looking. I'll check Reddit every now and then. Check these certain subreddits, the news and politics subreddits, right? Relevant news stories, so that not everything is a complete surprise. So that's one of the things about paying attention to the news that we got to get back to. Okay, because one of the things people have stopped doing on both sides, but I don't normally talk like that, so I'm not gonna start now. Okay, one of the things that everybody's done is stop watching the fucking news. Okay, so part of the reason that this show exists, in fact, I would say the majority reason this show exists, as a stand-in for the news. I'm not pretending to be a professional, so you need to do your own research. But one of the things that we try to do here, or at least that I go out of my way to do, is say, hey, uh, war is bad, okay? Here's Edwin Starr's War. We'll call that the opening song. So if I ever get, I don't know, like choked up or can't hold my water, I'll play fucking War in the background and hum along. You know what I mean? Now, on a whole, since we're not really watching the news, where are we going to get relevant information in volume, right, to compete with the likes of the news? I'd argue it's Reddit and its many subreddits. So I just try to keep it simple, stupid. Politics, news. This particular show, in terms of the sort of propaganda I spit out, is that of peaceful protest, right? Exercising your First Amendment rights, your right to peaceably assemble, right? Yes. Okay. You know, a lot of people have come to me and said, hey, you were in the Marine Corps. How do you feel about all of this shit? And remember, much like when you become a citizen of the United States as an immigrant, when you join the military, you have to take an oath. But your oath is to the Constitution as she stands. And you also, in that oath, you promise uh, to fight enemies both foreign and domestic, right? And instead, what you realize is that white people don't take those oaths, right? So they don't. If you didn't serve in the military and you aren't someone that had to take a citizenship test, then you've never had to take that oath until you got into office, and then you think about how corrupt politicians are once they get into office. They just completely. Morning, Bob, Stacy, Kara, Debs. Morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. 8 months and a day. Uh, the week of my 42nd birthday. Happy to be here with everybody on Sunday morning. I'm wearing my Indiana hat because I want to talk about stuff. Um, that way you can get behind it. So I watched a video this morning on YouTube. I don't have something in my beard. I don't think I have gray hair in my beard. So, um, I watched a video about how viewership is down in the NBA, and it's sort of along the lines of like we don't allow people to get mental health help and then give them a platform. So I want to point to somebody. Hopefully, a lot of people know. Um, Played with LeBron James, Love, the white boy. He's a big center. Okay. Well, he got depressed and he went to therapy and medication and shit. He's played in the league forever. Okay. But the NBA kind of didn't want to give him a platform. Why? 'Cause he told other NBA players to, hey, take care of your mental health. Um, it could be a lonely experience. Having a family can be burdensome. Um, Being where you're from can be a burden to you. The team that you're on can be a burden to you. Go to get mental health help. And one of the things that white people in positions of power can't have is you can't have everybody getting their shit in one sock, right? You can't have everybody all organized and having their own shit together because then we could become individuals and we're not a team. We're not a unit anymore. The hard reality is you want everyone to fly. You want everybody to be the absolute best version of yourself. You want it fucking screaming out your fucking body. And far too long, when we come to developing athletes, we aren't capable of developing people. And so what you have are man children, right? Men who've just been told, oh my God, you're the best their whole life, that get into the professional ranks of sports and they don't have personalities. In fact, one of the conversations I've had recently as an Indianapolis Colts fan is about one of our linebackers um, who said some shit on the internet. And I said, I played football, and that sounds like a linebacker. That sounds like something a linebacker would say. And the other journalists that I worked with, because I'm not an active sports journalist, they were just like, yeah, I don't like him. And you're like, what? He was talking his mess is what I would talk about. In my opinion, he's from the South. I can't. I'm drawing a blank as the linebacker in specifics because it's not important. Most of you don't care, right? But we have this linebacker on our team that was being brash on the internet, talking about how I'm out there having a good time, putting your boy on his ass, right? Type shit. And the other journalists that I work with, they're like, he's not that good of a player. He shouldn't be. I don't like him. And you're just thinking about that's pretty par for the course for a linebacker, actually. And I'm not a writer, but they are. So how likely? How? What do you think the press is going to write about that linebacker now, and has been writing about him? Now, this isn't me saying like he doesn't deserve that negative spin. I think there's just more. There's better fish to fry, and far too often what people are doing is they're trying to get as many clicks as they can. And they don't respect the people that they're actually talking about at all. They don't see any of this as a show. And I'm talking about NFL sports. I'm talking about the NBA, right? And so, anyway, what I was ultimately getting at is I watched this video today where they were talking about um, the decline in viewership in the NBA, trying to figure it out. And it's like, hey, The reason that people don't want to watch the shit is because you don't fully develop these people. You throw them into the spotlight, you give them insane wealth, you ship them all over God's green earth. And remember, 60% of NBA players are fucking broke. So it don't pay that much money. And the problem that I see, and this isn't from working with professional athletes, you can hear my dogs howling in the background. Um, the problem that I see is that we don't educate people anymore. We don't teach them how to manage money. We don't develop them their mental well-being so that they can just be conversational with people and get along with people. And then what happened a generation before that? So think about how bad it is now. What do you think happened the generation before that, where the kids weren't even getting a college degree before become professional athletes? Now they all have degrees and business plans and shit that they're trying to do outside of the game because they know that this shit doesn't last that long. And only the only people that are fully invested in basketball are the elite players. And not every team's got an elite player, and not every team prepares like an elite team. So you have some teams that are just kind of half-assing it too, that aren't well run, right? And not everybody is competitive. And that's one of the fucking problems in the NBA. I'll just come out and say it, is that there's a power disparity. Some of these teams are fucking loaded. Some of these teams don't have much talent. They're super top heavy. And it's by design. And again, this isn't me talking about the New York Knicks, but it's true. Like, they have 5, 6 guys that can play at the professional level. Everybody else is just a body. At the NBA level, that cannot happen. You have to have almost two full rotations. It's that grindy of a game. Um, anyway, y'all don't care about that shit, but I just wanted to opine about people wonder why people don't want to watch the NBA. Well, it's the same fucking people that have been commentating these games for the last 20, 30 years. And it's like, I can appreciate the longevity and shit like that is great. It's great. But like, we need fresh blood. We need new people talking about sports. So anyway, I have a young kid that I coached. I'm like so excited to talk about it. A young kid that I coached that's in college now, that he's studying sports journalism, and he's starting to see what I'm seeing, that everybody that makes NBA content is hard. It's hard to watch. Actually, you could tell they don't have that much to do with the sport at all. Um, I played, a kid I coached played. He's in college now studying sports journalism, and he wants to start a podcast talking about the NBA, and WNBA. And I message him pretty regularly, um, and say, we got to start our show and love on these people, because holy shit, like, the way they talk about people, it it's no wonder people don't want to uh, play. It's no wonder. You can hear my dogs crying. Anyway, sorry to talk about sports, but you wonder why people don't watch the shit. It's because not all players are equal. Yeah, Taylor on her way out, and I'm in here with you. It's just timing. Taylor and I used to go donate plasma, or not plasma, um, platelets. Um, but we started the show, and that's what kind of take me off. But she goes with her mom, and it's like a them thing. So it's going to be hard for me to keep a smile off my face today. If you're part of the Discord chat, you saw it. I was posting it like, holy shit, they're falling the fuck apart. So, where you kind of got to start, if you're kind of looking around at all at the news, I think the most the craziest thing here. Hold on just a second. Hold on just a second. Sorry. I'm not the kind of person to just I didn't do anything. I just shut the door. Because she'll sit in there and bark. I'm not the kind of person to let my dogs sit there and whine like that. Anyway, so the most compelling news story for me today, okay, is that Donald Trump is basically begging his base to get off of the Epstein shit. So I don't know how any of y'all work, but if you just think about what's been going on in the world, and especially the last few days, you're like, but yeah, he's like begging his base to look away. Don't pay attention to this shit. Because a lot of people voted for Donald Trump thinking that he was going to release the Epstein files, right? And he had kind of before that he'd gotten into yeah, I agree. Someone needs to leak it. Burning their hats. Yeah, he's talking to them, boys and girls, like calm down. Obviously, on the other kind of the side of the political spectrum, AOC kind of had the ace in the hole, where she said, how did you put a rapist in charge of releasing the Epstein files? Something to that effect. And it just kind of won the day. Where it's such a negative thing for Donald Trump. It's such a win for like AOC. Like her and Gavin Newsom, as long as they keep getting their licks in.
Got a message for all the ICE officers out there who have taken on the role of being America's new Gestapo. First, I want to make it very clear that I am not a Democrat or a liberal. I hate both, just like I hate the Republicans and I hate the neocons. The liberals are sociopathic and they're racist. They just don't show it that well. You cheered on a genocide of the Palestinian people for the past 18 months, so Democrats. I'm not going to appeal to your moral senses. I am not going to appeal to your emotions. I am not going to appeal to your ethics or your conscience. That's not what I'm going to do. Because you're already a piece of shit if you signed up, so there's no point. What I am going to say is this. I'm going to give you a fair warning, and you can take it or leave it. But understand, if you leave it, there will be consequences. This is not Germany. I also want to make it very clear that there will not be a civil war. There is going to be a class war because people are waking up that the Democrats and Republicans work together. People are realizing that the Biden administration did not release the Epstein list because they were on it. Trump is not releasing the Epstein list because he knows that he's on it, and the Republicans are on it, and the billionaires are on it. The same billionaires that finance both sides are on that list. It means that Americans know that this is not a Democrat.
Yep. That needs to be said too. I shared a video that I was kind of watching there for a moment. Um, it is true. People are waking up to like, the reason the Biden administration didn't release the Epstein list is because their donors are on it. And now with Trump in the White House, he's not releasing the Epstein list because he's on it, right? Um, so yeah, I think it'll come out. But what is happening as a result of this Epstein list issue, is that the MAGA, the people that fell for that shit the hardest, they're waking up and realizing, dude, Donald Trump's best friends with Epstein for a long time, and there's photos of them that you can't get off the internet. They're there forever. And then the more details that comes out, the more information that comes out, the more victims start speak back the fuck up. You get what I'm saying? This is real bad for Donald Trump, because he was supposed to. He had told all these people, they're attacking me. The left's attacking me. I'll get in there. I'll expose all these billionaires, right? And yeah, time to clean house. Yeah. Anybody that's staying silent, anybody that's not speaking out against this regime, right? As I've said before, what is important to understand about, if you are looking at American politics right now and you're like, wow, it seems awfully pro Russia, awfully pro Israel, just a reminder, a little refresher for everybody, a reminder that every elected Republican took money from Russia. Full stop. Straight from the Kremlin. Every or 100 elected Democrats take money from AIPAC, Israel, including Hakeem Jeffries, Cory Booker, right? Kamala Harris, Joe Biden. They all are the major benefactors of AIPAC that cheered on a fucking genocide for 18 fucking months, right? And understand, and I want to make sure that I use my platform to say we have to clarify, because people are stupid, that hey, Israel of today is not the Israel from the Bible. Israel of today was founded in 1948 by David Ben-Gurion. He was then the head of the Jewish Agency. And Egypt's whole point in being founded was so that the U.S. had a diplomatic ally in the Middle East that they could work with and rely on. And what has happened is they've committed a genocide against the Palestinian people. They've outright attacked other countries over and over, including Iran's not the latest, right? Yemen comes to mind. But yeah, so keep in mind the warmongering IDF are operating as designed. They were meant to be a destabilizing force in the Middle East. They're meant to be expansionist and imperialist. This is what their intent was. People are always like, "Oh my God, how did the Jewish people?" And it's not the Jewish people. It's not. More people live outside of Israel that are Jewish than live in Israel that are Jewish. So understand, like, yes, Tel Aviv has the highest concentration of the Jewish population in the world, but the highest percentage of that population does not live in Tel Aviv. Like they live outside of there. So yes, they that these people need to be protected. No, no, they're God's chosen people. No, no, that's hoodoo. That's not real. I don't care what your faith says. The fact that there are people on this planet that think that they're chosen people is insane. Especially when Israel, as you know it today, started in 1948 and has been explicitly a violent, ex- imperialist, expansionist regime, and has destabilized the Middle East. And yes, they were are an ally to the United States, an unfortunate ally. I want to make sure I share this story about the IDF. While I was on active duty, some of the Marines that I served with trained with the IDF on one of their deployments. And they said, we're in the Marine Corps infantry, like tip of the spear, right? The IDF, they're fucking insane, bro. And you're just like, oh, guys I served with in the Marine Corps infantry were like, yo, the IDF is fucking insane. In the Marine Corps infantry, where gratuitous violence is like par for the course, what are we talking about? Hell yeah, Gavin Newsom called Stephen Miller a fascist cuck. I like it. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Donald Trump is fully off his fucking rocker. Keep in mind, in addition to every elected Republican took money from Russia, 100 elected Democrats take money from AI PAC. Keep in mind, there's also the Blue Dog Caucus. 54 elected Democrats that vote conservatively. They're basically like Republicans, Democrats in name only, right? I want to point out that just like I posted a video yesterday, um, in February, this administration said that Pam Bondi had the Epstein list on her desk and that they were going to come out with it. And last week, Donald Trump said it didn't exist. And yesterday, Donald Trump said that it existed, but that it was fake. And that, oh, every prominent Republican from the last like 30 years had a hand in writing it. So I wanted to point out that's where we are now is Donald Trump has done the weave when it comes to the Epstein list. And now, as far as I'm aware, and I don't have Truth Social, so if any of you do that can verify this, that he was literally begging his base to get off it. Like, you don't want to see what's in there. There's a lot of bad stuff in there, and a lot of it's fraud. A lot of it's fraudulent, right? So he's putting. It's like he's protecting himself. Jesus fucking Christ, bro. I didn't know this. This is crazy. Jeffrey Epstein trafficked 1,000 people over a 2 decade period. And him and Donald Trump are best fucking friends. And obviously, the story of the day yesterday was Donald Trump threatening to take Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship. I just want to point out the President of the United States does not have the ability to take someone's citizenship away. Holy shit. However, I also think if he is spending his time focused on Rosie O'Donnell, who doesn't even live here, she doesn't even live in the United States. That's a great thing as long as it's not at the expense of her safety. That makes sense? Yeah. So she went off on him and called him King Joffrey with a tangerine tan. Okay. Here's Jamie Raskin making his quarterly appearance on TV to say he thinks the Epstein files should be made public. Meanwhile, here's Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, AOC, representing New York's 14th District, introducing legislation to impose a lifetime ban on members of Congress from lobbying. AOC and Joe Neguse from Colorado's 2nd District introduced the Close the Revolving Door Act of 2025. It would be legislation that would impose a lifetime ban on former members of Congress from becoming lobbyists. But they're thinking of it like closing a revolving door, right? I want to continue to point out that Kristi Noem, the head, what is Kristi Noem's official job title? She is the Secretary of Homeland Security. Okay, she believes that Antifa exists. So I decided that I'm gonna start going to the gun range in an Antifa hoodie. That's what I've decided. I'm gonna get the baby blue one that has it looks like Barbie, but instead it says Antifa. I think that's great. Oh, I also want to point out if you ever wondered where Donald Trump took all his inspiration from, you know how we're always bitching about Donald Trump golfing all the time? Guess who else was really lazy and surrounded himself by incompetent fucking people? Yeah, that's right. Fucking Hitler. Yeah. A drug addict that was lazy, a genocidal maniac. Incompetent, lazy, egomaniac, and his government was an absolute clown show. Straight out of Newsweek. So keep that in mind. If you've ever met anyone that was like a big Hitler fan, you're a fan of a lazy, incompetent, genocidal maniac. Okay, okay. Cool story, bro. Oh, and I don't think I have to tell y'all, mostly because none of us, or at least that I'm aware of, are glued to social media all day. But Superman just came out, and as a nerd, um, as someone who grew up loving everybody. See, my parents did not raise me to hate stuff. One of the things that my mom told me when I was really young is that people hate mostly what they don't have, Jared. And I was like, what? And she said, like when we go to the comic book store, and I'm like, yeah. And I tell you, hey, for the month, I'll let you pick out 5 comic books, but they gotta be all different comics. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, and I stand at the register and I wait on you to pick out your books. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, okay. Well, in that time, 3 or 4 people will check out ahead of me, grown adults. And I'm like, okay. And they buy 1 or 2 books. Do you get it now? This is all they've ever read. This is all they'll ever read. And I was like the Bible? And she said, like the Bible. So when my mom used to take me to go get comic books, she was like, get like 5 different ones. Okay. So I never had much of a collection. I didn't get to do it for very long because we were overspending, right? You really should only be hooked on a few books, right? That's kind of the comic book rule of thumb. But because there being such a breadth of characters, right, that you could get into, um, I just was like, fuck it, I fuck with all of them, right? I was more Justice League, the books where you get to see all of them working together, right? And so what I've realized as a result is like, oh, I'm not a natural hater. I don't have that energy. Oops. And so I try to instill that in other people. Is start being a lover, stop being a hater, right? Because if you really think hard enough, the things that you tend to dislike are just things that you don't have. And I know that's a tough pill to swallow, but it's just fucking true. Um, and obviously, we hate things that we absolutely fucking dislike, right? Um, but Superman is a story about an alien. Uh, an illegal alien come to Earth, hmm and he is adopted by a farmer. And I believe he grows up. What is no Clark Kent's job? A reporter for the Daily Planet. But I wanted to point out that that movie just came out. And so if you go see it, and that's cool, if you go see it, try not to ruin it for anyone else. I just wanted to I just want to throw that out there. Hey, if you're gonna I love Superman. A lot of people grew up loving fucking Superman. If you go see Superman, don't fuck it up for everybody else. Cool? Because here's what I've heard. No spoilers. I've heard that it's a great movie. And that's all that I needed to hear, right? That's all I needed to hear. But I've always fucked with the superheroes, so all of them. I know they're I'm not I don't. These are the ones I like. These are the ones I don't like. Nah, fam. That's boring. Want to make sure we use our platform. Hell yeah. When I was on active duty, this is about as close as I get to talking about like war and shit. Um, when I was on active duty, I became friends with a Marine that had been on two deployments already, and he was a smaller guy. Uh, Girls weren't really uh, drawn to him naturally. And then before I met him, uh, he had just kind of developed a love of Superman because he had been to war a couple times as a Marine and come back. And by the time I met him, he had the S tattooed on his chest, the Superman emblem. Uh, we used to go to the gym, is how I know that, and is why we became buddies because we were lifting weights in the gym while I was on active duty. But he said, never really fucked with comic books until I came home from my second deployment, and I hadn't spent the money from my first deployment yet, so I had like $50,000. And if you think about if you had been on back-to-back combat deployments in the Marine Corps infantry, come home, never really gotten the attention from women at all. He was a good-looking kid. He looked like he tried hard, but he was a smaller guy. Um, but yeah, he had kind of got to the point in his money where you start fucking around with hobbies, and he got really into Superman, and that's how he kind of saw himself. Um, from Boston, started as far as I know, he owns a security company in the Boston area. Hmm. The original Superman TV show's name was George Reeves, and the actor was played by Christopher Reeves. You hear the dogs howling. Yo, it's fucking crazy how they're trying. You know what's crazy? Is it a verse from the Bible? He who would lay down his life for his friends. John 15:13. No one, let's see. I think I was an NIV kid. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. That's King James Version. That's how I grew up. And the NIV. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. God damn. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. Jesus. Cannot believe how many different versions of the Bible there is. But apparently, Donald Trump has never read the Bible. John 15:13. Look at the way he's treating Jeffrey Epstein post mortem. He's walking all over him, distancing himself from him and not being like, yo, we are best fucking friends for like 2 decades. There's pictures of you, bro. You're on flight logs. There is evidence. What do you mean? Oh, I do too. Oh, yeah. I can make him howl. hmm I'm not really trying to do that right now. Now let's talk about some bad news, I guess. State Department starts firing more than 1,350 workers in Trump's shakeups of diplomatic corps. Oh, this is, by the way, this is the Republican win for the weekend. Okay? You have his plane. Um, Pam Bondi has announced the dismissal of charges against this plastic surgeon accused of faking COVID-19 cards. Um, that's their win. That's what they have to show. Think about what has happened. You have his plane. Yeah, right. Um, 1,000 victims over 2 decades, and he and Donald Trump for 15 or more of those years were regularly seen together. Were best friends. And now that Jeffrey Epstein's gone, I mean, in my opinion, uh, didn't he? Did he off his mom? Do you think Donald Trump also had his mom killed and had Epstein killed too? Probably cease. Dr. Kirk Moore, Michael Kirk Moore, whose criminal trial is currently underway in Utah. Ah, that's why ICE was in Utah. Was indicted by the Justice Department in 2023. And the reason that happened is because of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the reason that Dr. Michael Kirk Moore got pardoned. Want to make sure that, again, we use our platform to say free Palestine and Slava Ukraine. What the fuck? Here's a article in the BBC. A mass grave discovered West Ireland. Cease said she suddenly fell down the stairs. Okay, sure. But again, think about what the government could be doing. I want you to think really hard about how much money the fucking government is control over and what needs to be fucking done and what people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are focusing their energy on. Getting that doctor pardoned. So yeah, I'll say it with my full chest. Like there's an absolutely no reason not to talk about how I actually feel and say, I'm pretty sure Donald Trump had uh, Ivanka whacked, had Epstein whacked. Look how he's talking about him. You think about, wouldn't you talk about uh, your mom and shit dying? Wouldn't you talk about your best friend in their absence? Ivana, sorry, Ivana. Heard she was pissed because he burned through the kid's trust funds and she wouldn't let it go. I believe it. Yeah, I think he had her fucking whacked. Sorry if we got the names wrong. I know it matters to people. Like, I don't give a fuck who these people are. Donald Trump's mom that fell down the fucking stairs and died. That lady, I think she got whacked. Yeah, we got it, Cease. She got whacked. Epstein got whacked. He doesn't even talk about Ivana. When's the last time you heard Donald Trump talk about Ivana? Isn't that his mom? If my when my mom dies, we're gonna talk about it. About how I loved her and she supported me for a long time, and anytime I needed help, I could just call my mom for fucking years. And then she voted for Donald Trump and threatened to kill me in her house. And I was like, and she's gone off the deep end. I will never set foot in your fucking house ever the fuck again in my life. Yeah. So, I feel like people have bit their tongue about that. Nobody talked about it in the mainstream media because they're all buddies. Because remember, to the mainstream media, Donald Trump is a fucking gold mine. That's the reason that he's been able to get away with some shit. Ivana was his kid's mom. What? So who's the lady that died? And he buried her at his golf course for the tax write off. And also, so he could keep, when he gets elected, he can be a president locking down his home and not let anyone near that fucking burial site. Oh, Ivana was his ex wife that died. Sure, sure. She could be that too. That's the lady that died? Okay, cool. Like I said, I don't particularly give a fuck who any of these people are. But let's make sure we get it right. So yeah, somebody said, Stacy said he was pissed because he blew through the kid's trust funds. Yeah, he was basically broke. But he was like, let me win this shit. Let me win the presidency and I'll make it all back and then some. And he has, for the record, and he's trying to capitalize on his time in office. Which again, I want to point out, that's kind of not what you're supposed to fucking do. If I were an elected official right now, I'd be writing a tell-all book and selling that shit while I'm in elected office. I would just be trying to monetize the fuck out of everything, right? I'm also not them, so If I'm anyone in elected office right now, it's basically the wild wild fucking west. You might as well get it, boo boo, because this shit is over for you. Your fucking political career is going in the toilet. As I've said, there are only like 535 jobs in government. Think about that. Think about how many of them people need fucking replaced yesterday, and there's thousands of better people at that job than that person, right? You just gotta figure out who those people are, right? And like I said, we'll connect with some people. Um, One of the things that I will not do is I will not entertain a fascist. So a lot of people have asked, a lot of people have asked me about how do I feel about the Unfuck America tour, and I don't debate fascists. I don't give them oxygen. Did y'all not pay attention? They've been brainwashed. How do you get people to not be brainwashed? You exile them. You eliminate them from your life. Stop following them. Stop talking with them, interacting with them. Right? But I watched a video from a creator that I thought was pretty far left. And they were like excited because the elder millennials showed up to the Unfuck America tour yesterday. And I just thought, oh, yeah, I don't care about this shit. Yeah, I'm not interested in entertaining a fascist. I'd rather push him down. What are we talking about? Trample him. Yeah, I don't give a fuck about the older millennial. I don't fucking know who that is. Didn't he just get arrested for disrespecting a police officer? Yeah. Fuck him. Fuck anybody like. Jesus fucking Christ. Look at this explosion in Gaza. Don't look away. We didn't talk about the weather today because I need to do better. Um, I mean, we will. We'll go hit up the Allbot. Let's look at the weather.
Life's better when your stuff is protected.
God, getting their ads up front, huh? Alright. Northeast part of the country, you're fucked. Pennsylvania, New York, holy shit. Bridgeport, Rhode Island, your shit is gonna get wham. Yep. Yep. Looks like I might miss Boston though. Portland, Maine, gonna get it today? Yeah. Yeah. The eastern the obviously the coast of Maine is gonna get hit with storms today. But yeah. Uh Rhode Island, Delaware, New York, Pennsylvania. Okay. And for those of you wanting to watch the weather, here's the Y'all bot. It's a 24-hour weather bot created by Ryan Hall. Okay. So you don't have to wait for Ryan Hall to decide to stream. You can just look at this map of the U.S., which is where we are right here. Okay. Jeez. So hey, from the eastern edge of Montana straight down, basically the western one third of the United States, your shit is on fire. I'm assuming that that just means it's going to be very dry and very hot, and that has all the ingredients necessary a dry, hot climate to there for there to be a fire risk. Okay. Now, I've learned some things. Aha! It learns. In New Mexico, there's flood risk. In Texas and Oklahoma, there's flood risk. In New York, there's flood risk. As far as precipitation, Texas, Central Texas, still getting rain in Central Texas. What the fuck did y'all do to the weather in Central Texas? And then southeast Oklahoma, the middle part of Kansas, and as we said, the northeast part of the country, all getting rain today. Okay? And then, hey, it looks like there's some shit going on in the Gulf. So if you live in any of the Gulf states, your shit is fucked, basically. Okay? And obviously, yeah, there is a marginal risk of excessive rainfall from Santa Fe through Dallas, Oklahoma City, up through southern Illinois, okay, southern and central Indiana, Ohio, yeah. So yeah, right now, if you look at it, it's showing the map of the whole U.S. And basically, you know, the Trail of Tears is, I'm just kidding, bad joke. Okay. Holy shit. For the next 2 days, look at the rainfall. But yeah, there's nothing in the west. Wow. I've never said this before in my life, but you could not pay me enough money to live in the west. No rainfall, drought, excessive heat. Nah, fam. FEMA missed thousands of calls from Texas flood victims after Kristi Noem fired contractors. As I've said before, if you voted for this regime or you're part of it, Kristi Noem, you've got red on you, which is to say you have blood on your hands. As Gazans are starved to death, I want to take a moment to reshare this photo. Look at all these people. Look at all these people standing next to Benjamin Netanyahu. There's Ted Cruz on the left. There's Cory Booker on the right. Yep. Trying to hide. Uh-huh. John Thune, Chuck Schumer. Who's this person? That must be Chuck Schumer. Yeah, I'm not sure why. Cory Booker, Maria Cantwell, Bill Cassidy, Chris Coons, Steve Daines, John Husted from Ohio, Amy Klobuchar, who I've come to dislike, Dave McCormick, Jim Risch, Jackie Rosen, and Adam Schiff. Fuck Israel. I'll say it. Genocidal fucking maniacs.
DOJ released a two-page
Metadata shows that the video, yeah, right. The video of Epstein's cell was doctored. So I just want to make sure everyone knows and no one has any fucking doubts in their minds that Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself, because before and after he dies, there's a full minute of video missing. That's long enough for someone to open his cell door, kill him, hang him, and leave. So, for everyone out there that thinks, oh, he killed, what, what? The reason that he was allowed to be put in prison anyway is because Donald Trump was trying to silence him. And look at how he's treated his best friend in his absence. Right? Look at how Donald Trump treats his friends. Jim Risch is from Idaho and he's the second richest senator. Yeah. How do you get rich? Sounds like by prioritizing the lives of Israelis over Americans, which I don't believe in doing. One of the things that I've heard, Marjorie Taylor Greene was interviewing with Tucker Carlson, and she said since she'd been in office, they'd voted on 22 bills with Israel in the fucking title, and that she didn't actually get to propose a bill that or vote on a bill that actually impacts Americans before she'd begun voting on bills for to help the Israeli people. I want to point out it's a freakish relationship. It is unnatural. It is beyond the scope what is fucking normal. Listen, I was in the Marine Corps infantry during a time of war. I served with people that trained with the IDF, and my buddies that I served with, that fought and died for this country. Um, they were like, "Yo, the IDF is fucking insane." Remember that I told you I was in 2nd Battalion, 2nd Marines Weapons Company, and that 2-2 was the most combat deployed unit in Marine Corps history, and that by the time I got to them, they were on their 5th straight deployment to Iraq. The absolute tip of the spear. The well-oiled machine, I might add. Thought the IDF a bit barbaric. They're a little too crazy over there. Hmm? That's how my fellow Marines felt. That's how my leadership felt. Oh, the IDF is batshit. Oh, and by the way, I also wanted to point this out. While I was on active duty in the Marine Corps Infantry, stationed in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, the order that I heard most frequently was turn off Fox News. This was 20 fucking years ago. Think about think about that shit. His brother is all over the internet saying the autopsy report shows homicide. I'm actually surprised they haven't gone after him yet. What does he say here? I thought BB went to trial once already, Gerald, a while back by the ICC. Uh, where did that come from? But okay. Um, So I'm pretty sure they've already been through pre-trial when they're issuing arrest warrants. So I don't know. Uh, the ICC has arrest warrants out for him. They generally don't try you for the same crime twice. Yeah, what do you want to bet every single active ICE agent right now is either a Proud Boy, a KKK member, or a January 6er? Here's an article about how wildfires force evacuations at two national parks in the U.S. West, and Arizona's Grand Canyon and Colorado's Black Canyon. Hey, I'm happy to read that they're evacuating and not that there are people missing. So, and I also want to point out the reason that all of these children are missing and dying in Texas is because the adults in the room were idiots and said shit like, we don't want to be bought by the Biden administration and these people are communists. All those kids died because you're a fucking moron. There, I said it. I hate the part where I dismiss someone for being an idiot and someone else comes around and says, "Okay, everybody's got to be friends now." And it's like, "No the fuck we don't. What are you talking about?" "Oh, you've got to debate them." The fuck I do. What are you talking about? They're in charge. The world's falling apart. Clearly you don't need to be in charge, right? But I want to continue to point out one of the things I think for sure is one of two things. Okay? One, you'd have to be a fucking crazy person to vote for this regime. I think the Republican Party is going to fucking crash and burn. I think that the MAGA movement is going to remove itself. It's going to separate itself from the Republican Party. And the MAGA has all the money, so when they go away, all the remaining Republicans, they're just going to struggle. They have no platform. And then the Democrats, their fucking platform is, at least we're not Republicans. And that's going to be good enough to carry a lot of these fucking elections. Okay? And so in my opinion, what's going to happen is there's going to be a power shift come the midterms. You notice I'm not sitting here saying, if there's even elections, if the president doesn't completely go outside of what he is allowed to do as a president and suspend or cancel an election, which he's not able to do. So hypothesizing that that's going to happen is fucking insane. And then also, I want to also point out, while I'm on my soapbox, that if you think he has enough money to do what he did twice, I have some shit I want to sell you. He burned the bridge with the guy who made it happen, Elon Musk. So if you think Donald Trump's gonna rig the fucking midterms, no, you're crazy. But what we are at risk of is governance by the least competent. Uniparty governance. Democrats control everything and nothing happens. Maybe they undo some things that Trump has done, but the risk that we run in this country is not putting the best person in the job. And you run a risk of electing people who will take money from Israel and all of a sudden have a vested interest in the safety and security of Israel, when the hard reality of the situation is that they're the perp. they're the bad guy. Israel is doing the bad thing. What the fuck is wrong with you people? If I'm allies with someone and you commit a genocide, I say, it's unfortunate that we're allies, but you're committing a genocide. I can't support this. And the problem is that we don't put smart enough, well enough adjusted people in positions of power. And so what happens is these fucking foreigners, they say shit like, oh, for example, if you're anti-Israel, you're anti-Semitic. It's actually not fucking true. Jewish people are not a monolith. So just because one fucking person that you know that's Jewish is also a supporter of Israel, it doesn't mean that's how all Jewish people view the Israeli state. And from what I understand, okay, more. Yep. And then took the money and pocketed the money. Yep. And so understand, I'm a big proponent of building a new political party because the Democratic Party is corrupt as well. They insider trade, they stock trade in office. I think that should be illegal. I think that our elected officials, I think that you should be able to produce a memoir while you're in office. I think you ought to be able to write a book. I think you ought to be, I think you'd be able to speak while you're in office and make some coin. Like, I'm for these things. But what I'm not for example, is this cryptocurrency scheme that the president of the United States gets into office, creates his own crypto, and allows countries to backdoor pay him money for access. And there's no trace of it, except a crypto exchange, which again they're able to muddy. And so it's like, I would rather people be out about it. I would rather people tell you what they're going to do rather than. Exactly. Now is the absolute best time for ASP, yeah. Both sides are done. They're all liars and drama filled and chaos is getting really old, yeah. And all I need is for people to step up and say, hey, Jared, in this hierarchy that is going to be the American Socialist Party, I want to do this fucking job. Here are my credentials, and we're going to need people that want to call people. We're going to need people that want to call them and extol the virtues of the American Socialist Party. That, look, we could all be DSA members, but here's what happened, so that you understand why I said we have to form our own political party, and we have to separate ourselves from the center, is because when I started researching the Democratic Socialists of America, I found a crossover where there are elected officials that are DSA candidates that accept money from AIPAC. And it doesn't matter how many it is. If there's one elected official that's a DSA candidate taking money from AIPAC, I'm off it. I don't want to be on that team. I don't want to be on the same team as Kirsten Hillebrand. Right? Zohran Mamdani wins the Democratic primary in the New York City mayoral race, and Kirsten Hillebrand's out here being fucking racist. I don't want to be on the same team as that person. And the thing about it is, Gabby, for me personally, this is not me trying to get power. I have openly said, hey, I'm not doing this for money. I'm not doing this so I can run for public office. I'm doing this because this is what we need. We need, first of all, we need a vehicle to carry the American Socialist Party in the digital era. So there's a reason that I'm here every day for 90 minutes, is so that when I established the American Socialist Party, right? And now we're fundraising, and now we have a website, and now there's publicity, right? Every day I'm publicly available. 90 minutes. We sit and talk about the fucking news. So that you have someone in the political sphere in the United States that has their thumb on the pulse, that has their ear to the ground, that has some idea of what's going on in the world. Yes, you fucking deserve better. You deserve someone who would devote themselves to not being a piece of shit, right? I'm one of those people. I'm obsessed with being right, right? So if I'm sitting here telling you, like, look, we can't keep doing this capitalism shit. It will bankrupt all of us, and only a few people will make it out. There's no sense in lying to you and saying like trickle down economics is going to work. That's the reason that I'm not a communist, is because when it comes down to it, what communism is trying to do is destroy private equity and redistribute the wealth. And that sounds an awful lot like trickle down economics, and that sounds fucking stupid. So what I would rather see us do as like my big idea is federally legalize marijuana, continue to legalize it state by state, okay? Completely decriminalize that, get rid of everybody's criminal records ever tied to that, and literally turn it into a cash crop in the United States. Why? You, as a result of climate change, have turned the United States climate, in terms of its climate, into a great climate to grow cannabis in. And so every state in the country will make a whole bunch of money off taxes on that, and you could just use that tax money to fund my little socialist program, which is universal healthcare, education, income, and housing. And a lot of people are wondering about healthcare, right? How does a socialist feel about healthcare? And one of the comments I got, you guys were here for this when we were on TikTok, I don't want the government to run my healthcare. And I just want to back up and say, first of all, where the fuck did that come from? And I don't understand. And also, all we're saying when we say universal healthcare is that everyone gets healthcare and it doesn't cost anything. And so, for most of you, that means you could even keep your same healthcare provider, but you're going to switch into a healthcare plan that doesn't cost you anything monthly, doesn't cost anything to use. So I don't understand how I could say universal healthcare, explain that to you, and you get, I don't want the government to run my healthcare. You sound like a fucking idiot that didn't listen. Okay, moving along. And then when we talk about housing, my favorite thing that I hear from stupid people is, aren't you a homeowner? Yeah. Why do you give a fuck about people's rent? It's not because I'm a landlord. It's because for too many people that I talk to, they're paying too much for rent. You should only be paying like a quarter of your income in rent. Because when you go to buy a house, you should only be spending about 28 to 30% of your money on your mortgage. Apparently not a lot of people understand this. I talk to people all the time. I make $5,000 a month. Okay. How much is your mortgage? $2,500. What the fuck are you doing? No. Is this home in your name? It's in your name, and you're by yourself. And you got approved for a mortgage spending half your fucking income? Oh, well, taxes, I really make X. And I'm like, no. Yeah. So I want to make sure we clarify. If you can pay for housing, fine. But there's way too many people that shouldn't be paying for housing or paying for housing and it's too expensive. They're paying way more than they should for what they're getting. And I don't think this is a noble position. This is a look at the quality of housing around you condition uh, position. Yeah, I'm one of those people that I've lived in a dump. I've lived in a shitty apartment. I lived in that shitty apartment though when it was $400 a month, and now it's 2,400 fucking dollars a month, and it's the same dumpy ass apartments. And I know that there's people out there that are like, yeah, but there's no way that people are paying $2,400 a month. No, there's four people, five, six people living in a two-bedroom apartment in order to be able to afford that place, because wages have not increased as those costs of living have increased. That's why I'm a champion for universal income, is because our wages haven't gone up fast enough. So I think the government should use our tax money and give us $500 every Friday just to make sure that your lights stay on, that your bills stay paid, and that you don't have anything keeping you from wanting to be here. Flatly. You know, a lot of people are asked why socialism, and I say because suicide sucks. There. I said it. I believe if we introduce socialism as a good thing, and we go out of our way to like help people as much as we can, maybe so many people won't kill themselves if they're not just like drowning in debt, which is what most of the people that I talk to tell me, is like I'm drowning in debt. And you know, I had this conversation the other day, and at first the person didn't get it, right? But I said, what if what if there were no such thing as student loans? What if there was no such thing as tuition? What would you have done? And at first she said, well, it would have been impossible for me or my kid to have gone to school. And I'm like, no, you're thinking about it the wrong way. What if there was no cost for your education? And she's like, well, I don't know if anything would have changed for me. And it's like, because your education didn't cost you anything, and therefore you didn't have that stress. And so it was just easy to get through your degree program. And she's like, but I'm sure my daughter would have, I don't know, like become a doctor or something if it weren't for the cost of medical school. And I said, well, I'm a socialist, and one of the things that I think is that education should be free, and people should be encouraged to go to school. And we talked about how Harvard and all these Ivy League schools have gone free, and the University of Virginia and Texas, and it's all income-based, and that's cool. But think about how powerful it is to call for universal education while the Ivy Leagues are instituting it, while the University of Texas is instituting it. Nah, get back out and get back in. Nothing changed for me. It's just the dogs whining in the background. Audio cracking. That's a wild statement. Sorry. Nothing I can do. We're almost out of here. You sound like a robot. I don't know what to do. What if I turned it down a little bit? I don't know.
You're late.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean? You're late for dinner.
Yes, we are.
Are you pregnant?
Yes.
Here's a little bit of Eat the Rich.
Wake up, kid. It's half past 10. They never made a change about the date. You planned smell, but you know bad news. It's your late. I've been swinging from...
And by the way, the coolest music from when I was a kid is still the coolest music. You can never turn this song up loud enough. You know what I mean? Anyway, yeah, have a great Sunday, everybody.